Welcome back, everyone. This will be my Doctor Strange 2 post-credit scene video. There's a whole bunch of Marvel Easter eggs, so we'll break it down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. And careful for spoilers for the movie if you have not seen it yet, because we're literally talking about the post-credit scenes and the ending of the movie. So at the end of the movie, a remorseful Scarlet Witch winds up destroying the Darkhold Temple at Mount Wundagore, which is a big callback to her original comic book origin story at Mount Wundagore. The High Evolutionary was a big part of that. We'll probably see him during Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The temple itself is ancient and was built by Chthon himself. The Darkhold book was basically just transcribed from the writings all around the temple. In the comics, Chthon is the god of chaos. He's the person who gave Scarlet Witch her chaos magic when she was born. He's one of the ancient elder gods of the MCU that was expelled from the main dimension a long time ago and has been trying to break back in ever since, and tries to backdoor use Scarlet Witch and the Darkhold to do that. All those references to her becoming the Scarlet Witch and ruling over the multiverse in the movie were meant to be a sly reference to that. It was all about Chthon trying to use her to take over the entire multiverse. The going rule, as you would expect, is that if you don't see a body, they're not dead, so that means that Scarlet Witch is not dead. She'll definitely come back at some point. There are rumors they're going to do a solo movie for her. That's when they would actually do the God of Chaos, Chthon. The monsters that are guarding the temple that actually obey her will are designed to look kind of like Chthon, so their faces look a little bit like his. But then after they go back to Kamar-Taj, America Chavez starts training as a sorcerer. She starts learning basic magic skills, how to control her powers. She jokes about how hard it is to open portals with the sling rings. It's meant to be a big callback to the first Doctor Strange movie, with him not being able to open the portals right away. Doctor Strange congratulates her and says that she'll find her parents eventually and show them how much she's grown. That's just sort of establishing her arc in the MCU. Eventually, in some future project, she will find her parents. Doctor Strange has a conversation with Wong about finding true happiness, like, are you actually happy? That's just sort of setting him on the next phase of his path, like actually finding true happiness. He returns to the New York Sanctum, fixes the watch that MCU Christine Palmer gave to him, same watch that he used to open the 838 universe, the Illuminati Doctor Strange's waypoint to the Book of the Vishanti. That's meant to put a bow on his arc during this particular movie and during Spider-Man No Way Home, just to show how much he's learned about not messing with things. Because it's meant to be kind of ironic, too, because he fixes the watch like he's fixing the timepiece as if he's fixing reality, but they didn't really fix that much during the film. It's just going to get even more broken as we head to Secret Wars with more and more incursions happening. He walks down the street in his plain clothes, and as he's crossing the street, he stumbles over in pain, clutching himself, and there's this big Danny Elfman music cue that's just like the music cues during the Sinister Strange battle, where he clutches himself and a third eye, just like Sinister Strange's, emerges on his forehead. The reason why this happened is because he was corrupted by the Darkhold the same way Sinister Strange was, just by reading from it, using it in different ways. That's also why they use the similar music cue to the Sinister Strange battle, so that you kind of remember that. And it's one of the things that the souls of the damned that we saw later in the film were yelling at him about when he started using the Darkhold to dreamwalk across universes into the dead body of Defender Strange. They said what he was doing was forbidden and he'd suffer eternal consequences. That was setting up a couple different things, that there were actual souls of the damned from an alternate hell-like dimension, kind of like we learned on Moon Knight. They explained how the afterlife is just a bunch of alternate dimensions that your soul or your life essence travel to after death. And the particular dimension that it goes to is just dependent on who you were, what your belief system was, and whether or not you had some sort of cosmic level contract with another really powerful entity, like the MCU gods of different pantheons. These particular souls that seem like they're bound to the Darkhold and chaos magic in some way are from another hell-like dimension where the Marvel Fear Lords would rule.
Did you know there's an entire chapter devoted to you in the Darkhold? That's the Book of the Damned.
Like I said, the movie did specifically reference Chthon, the god of chaos, in a big way. He could be involved with that part too. But the other thing that the souls of the damned were foreshadowing was at the end of the movie, where he literally suffers the consequences, just like Sinister Strange suffered the consequences, performing the Darkhold spells, reading from the book. It corrupted him, thus he gets the third eye, and begins to lose his humanity as he becomes more powerful. This is also a big callback to the first Doctor Strange movie and the MCU version of the origin story for their version of Dormammu. So it's no coincidence that they literally go to Dormammu's dark dimension at the end of the post-credit scene. But in that first post-credit scene, surprisingly, Charlize Theron, who's been rumored to show up in Marvel movies for a long time now, shows up as Clea from the comics, walks up to him all pissed off, saying that he just caused a new incursion and they're going to fix it. And the funny way they play this is that he gets all excited, like, hell yeah, let's do this, while he has the full-on third eye in his forehead showing, and Clea doesn't have any kind of reaction to it at all, like she doesn't even look at the third eye, as if it's no big deal. She uses a magical artifact to tear open a multiverse portal to Dormammu's dark dimension, or because we're talking about incursions here, different universes colliding, they could just say Dormammu lives in an alternate universe instead of an alternate dimension. This is part of a bigger question that they raise in a lot of these recent Marvel Phase 4 movies and Disney Plus series, is whether or not they're using the term alternate universes, alternate timelines, and alternate dimensions as interchangeable things, when really they're like completely different concepts. Usually Marvel tries to simplify everything so that like your grandma could go to see the movie and understand what's going on. So that's why I think they might actually just be simplifying a lot of these really cosmic concepts. Because a lot of people will be wondering if the incursions have something to do with the Kang Multiverse War, which is each of the Kangs in the multiverse trying to fight other timeline versions of Kang and make their own timeline supreme. They're basically trying to destroy alternate timelines. And even though the concept of an alternate timeline is a little bit different when you talk about alternate universes, what the different versions of Kang are doing fighting this multiverse war is basically what happens during Time Runs Out with the Illuminati trying to destroy alternate versions of Earth to prevent them from destroying their Earth. And recently in an interview, Kevin Feige also clarified that the Loki 1 season finale with He Who Remains dying and leading to infinite timelines rising up, the Kang Multiverse War starting over again, was supposed to set up the events of Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, with the multiverse being able to go crazy in the first place. Just to be clear, the multiverse did exist before the events of Loki Season 1 because Doctor Strange himself goes on a tour of the multiverse when the Ancient One is talking to him at the beginning of the first Doctor Strange movie, and that was set long before the events of Loki and Sylvie meeting He Who Remains. But the whole idea with the incursions starting and happening more and more frequently is that they are doing a Time Runs Out storyline across all of Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5, whenever they decide to do this big Secret War situation, because when time runs out, hopefully they'll introduce a version of Doctor Doom at some point, everybody kind of waiting for that. They'll take the remnants of those remaining universes, combine them into a single universe to form a cohesive planet, and that'll be their Battle World scenario with the many alternate versions of the characters, many different variants of all the biggest characters. They could call it an Avengers movie, or they could just call it Secret Wars, and it would be fine. The reason why I said them going to fix the incursion in Dormammu's universe is a big callback to the first Doctor Strange movie and the creation of MCU Dormammu, is because Dormammu's origin story plays a lot like Sinister Strange's origin story in what's currently happening to MCU Doctor Strange. They start out as a normal person, but then they amass more and more power, becoming more and more evil, more and more corrupted. In fact, during the concept phase, they originally envisioned that MCU Dormammu would be kind of like a dark visage-looking version of MCU Doctor Strange. That's why Benedict Cumberbatch is the voice of Dormammu. He's doing his husky dragon voice from The Hobbit when he does MCU Dormammu, but it is Benedict Cumberbatch. It's just that it took him to this second movie to pay that off. Like, look, if you continue to get more powerful, you're only going to get worse and worse and worse until you become kind of like Dormammu. Also, them going to stop the incursion in the Dark Dimension kind of makes it seem like they're going to save MCU Dormammu in that post-credit scene. The second post-credit scene is just a funny tag scene of Bruce Campbell's pizza ball seller from earlier in the film having Doctor Strange's spell wear off, and then he laughs, turns to camera, breaking the fourth wall, saying, "It's finally over," kind of laughing at us, the audience. It's meant to be a reference to like 3 different things. It's a Deadpool-style fourth wall break. Scarlet Witch kind of breaks the fourth wall earlier in the film, but not in the same way that Bruce Campbell does at the end of the film. Like, she doesn't speak directly to the audience, she just looks directly into the camera at us, the audience. The reason why Bruce Campbell doing it is like Deadpool doing it is because he acknowledges that he's a fictional character in a movie making fun of their own movie. Like, haha, the movie is finally over. It's also meant to be a reference to Doctor Strange's spell finally being over in the context of the story, like, yay, I'm not punching myself anymore. And lastly, it's also meant to be a big Sam Raimi Evil Dead Easter egg to Ash's evil hand that was possessed. Sam Raimi includes other Sam Raimi Easter eggs in his films all the time like this. During the Evil Dead series, Ash's hand becomes possessed and keeps attacking him, like we saw during this film when Doctor Strange enchanted it. He chops it off during that film to try and stop it. That's where his chainsaw hand came from. And he's been doing this Evil Dead series. He's been reprising the role of Ash in all these different movies all these years. So he's just kind of laughing, saying, haha, it's finally over. I'm sure there's 1,000 more questions about what was going on during the post-credit scenes, everything they're setting up, the Living Tribunal, all the other big cosmic characters. My next big video will be my full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire film, so that's where I'll talk about a lot of that stuff. Everyone click here for my full review of the movie, and click here for my full Moon Knight Episode 6 finale video and Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.